I think so too, because for that exact reason, Eric, because the Seraphites are more of an Abby thing. I was
So
also
it's like, apart from Ellie getting to Seattle and realizing she's in over her head, which Dina and she realized in like episode 3, you don't need to show more Seraphite stuff. I love the Seraphite stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're a bunch of wackadoos that live in the forest. It's
and maybe they're the only sane ones out there.
Or maybe they are.
And granted, there is a lot more to that story that is very cool, right? But the problem is, because they're trying to like make this story fit into this outline that they have to do things like, hey, remember the Seraphites, remember they're still around. And it's like, you don't need those like forced reminders of things in the like flip-flop method, right? Because you're just naturally getting that. And like you said about the whole her getting captured thing, if I would have like left to get popcorn when she got on that boat and then came back after she goes back in the water and she's supposed to the aquarium, I wouldn't have really missed anything. I would have been like, oh, she got there. Cool. Like,
the only reason why I thought that scene was there was it reminded me of earlier in the episode when she's talking with Jesse and she really wants to go and save the Seraphite kid. But then in this particular moment, it's a Seraphite kid who betrays her. And so that's the only kind of storytelling piece that I could possibly make a connection to, because aside from that, there's really no reason for her to get washed ashore, to get back in the boat, to go to the aquarium, unless I'm totally missing something.
No, I mean, that was definitely what the intention was. And they talked about that in the making of, right? Where there's this whole idea of community itself being the problem, because it turns everything into an us versus them if you only prioritize your community. And that was Ellie's issue with Jesse's interpretation of the word community is, I've got to protect Jackson and I've got to dedicate myself to Jackson because they took care of me. And Ellie's like, well, Joel was my community, and so what do you think I'm trying to do is take care of or like look after that? Yeah. And so I that was the whole point of that scene. And they did point out it didn't exist in the game. It was just a complete fabrication, and it does serve a reminder that the Seraphites are out there, but really it's just drawing the parallel that they've been doing over and over and over again across both seasons, is that people do terrible things for the people or the community or the concepts that they love to other people they view as outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, the story is all about perspective. Mm-hmm. Again and again, we keep coming back to that. It's like, no one's really right. Mm-hmm. Not really. It's just about who wins and who loses.
Mm-hmm. And the beauty of the game in like when you're first playing it, right, and you're getting to play as Abby, like the fact that they can take a character that comes in and kills like one of the main characters of the game series and then makes you care, right? About their story. You have every reason to hate her. Yeah. You have every reason to be like, I do not care for this person at all. And they, because of how masterfully they tell that story and show you, glimpses into her world and like her motivations and all these things, you find yourself being like, you iced Joel, that was pretty messed up, but I kind of want to see how your story plays out still, right? Like, it's not like you're just like, whatever, get out of here. Like, they do such a good job of that. And like the scene with, I feel like I like that Ellie is being reckless, because it shows that like she's not really thinking things through, right? Even her argument with Jesse, where it's like, we just watched somebody die, and it's like, Ellie, I know you ain't talking, you've killed so many people, all of those people did not deserve to die. There's some guy out there that was just doing regular old guard duty, and he has a wife and kids at home, and you just killed him.
Or Joe
just
Miller.
Yeah. So it's like, you're in a war. Like you, sure, if this was like, everything was hunky-dory, sure, you could maybe have that take, but like, you were in a war, you've killed plenty of people who were just in your way, right? Either just surviving, right? And it's like, so all those people you killed, Ellie, what do you think their daughter's gonna do? Or their wife or husband or whatever? Like, that is the whole cycle of violence that they really highlight in the story, is like, if you are meeting violence with violence, it is not going to end. Right? Like, and you're going to be as justified as you want because it hurt you, but you are hurting other people, and they're going to come after you the same way that you know, that
I
they
think
can.
there are elements where that point is driven home and succeeds this season, and even in tonight's episode. I mean, I think the scene with Mel and Owen plays out exactly in the right way. And the added in the making of, they reveal that Craig had the idea of having Mel kind of tell Abby or tell Ellie to, try and save the baby, and Ellie actually like is along for the ride until she realizes she's so out of her depth, which is brutal and awesome. I think that maybe there was a point in this, like this whole season, but also tonight's episode, where they just want to make you sit with Ellie's failure. How consistently not planning she is, how consistently out of her depth she is, and like realize she's not a hero. And so my big question was, maybe the approach that they took, which is only clear in this episode to me, is like, maybe this is a thing, is in order to feel comfortable exploring Abby more, maybe the show really had to take Ellie down a peg as a hero character. You really had to see, not in a small way, not only that she's not heroic, but to continuously see how she ain't shit when it comes to avoiding infected. She ain't shit when it comes to not shooting the right people, shooting only who she wants to shoot. Maybe it really did need to essentially show us all the ugliness of Ellie in order for the writers to then feel comfortable to fully either leave Ellie behind. Not that Ellie ever gets left behind. She never gets left behind. But that to focus on Abby, maybe they really needed to show us how much Ellie is so flawed to kind of, we push her aside then and feel okay about it.
I do like that. And something that I did like about this episode, and again, this was another one of those things that I was like, is this a showism, or did this also happen in the game? When Ellie literally is having to choose between Joel and Tommy at a time when Joel is dead, right? So she literally gets to choose between, I'm gonna go try and fuck up Abby, or I'm gonna go help Tommy, who is actively alive and needs help.
I'm pretty sure that happens in the game.
And we see the choice she makes. So I again, I think it really does drive home the point that, like, Ellie's not a hero. She's not perfect, and she's not the only victim. There are a lot of them.
Jesse's the hero. He keeps showing up for her.
Well, and like it's funny because they even, like, I love that he was like, yeah, if I didn't show up here, if I did go with that girl and I didn't show, what would have happened? And Ellie doesn't really say anything, and I'm like I appreciate showing a character that is going through like a burnout, right? Or a crash out, because we've all been there, right? We may not have crashed out as spectacularly as she has, but we've all been there. We've all had something where we're like, I didn't handle that the best, right? But I feel like getting a whole season of her just consistently making bad decisions, consistently like not showing how, I don't know, like competent she is in that way, like, and I've in the game, and this is just a difference in the game that you can't really do much about, is when Ellie's doing cool shit in the game, you are the one doing the cool shit, right? Like, if you infiltrate a whole base of WLF people, you are the one making the decisions of hiding behind this barrel, taking this person out, shanking this person, right? Like,
you feel pride after you do it.
Yeah, like, you are the one that's like, wow, I did that. That was pretty difficult. Or wow, like, I guess Ellie, and by proxy, me, the player, are pretty good at this because we have been doing this for like 1.5 games at this point, you know what I mean? But they just kind of skipped that with her. Like, I would have loved to see her, like, actually get in the hospital, because she just kind of like Batman appears and she's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, where did you come from? Like, you got into a heavily guarded hospital in the middle of an active war zone
That is an interesting call out though, that there are moments where there's even though this is like, okay, this is Ellie focused Seattle days 1 through 3, Ellie focused Seattle. There's still parts where we miss where that could be used to make it feel less, I don't even say choppy, because again, this is the close up on Ellie, but it's like there's still these moments where maybe had we gotten 10 more minutes of Ellie trying to get in the hospital, we either would have more sympathy for her or more feelings or time with her. Like, it's still just like, why are there 2 fewer episodes this season? Which is a season question, but like,
yeah, and also just to like kind of show, I don't know, like that Ellie is a threat. Like, I don't want to see Ellie consistently being saved all the time. And sure, that happens, but there are plenty of other scenes and situations that show how competent she is and shows how much of a force she is. So when she does need to be saved, you're like, oh damn, I guess there just really wasn't any option, huh? I guess this is just so overwhelming that even though with all of your tricks and your strategies and your, survival training, pretty much, you couldn't overcome this. So it took you kind of just getting lucky. Because she gets lucky a lot. Like, on that boat, I'm like, that should have been it. You got capsized in a storm, in a huge, basically like a hurricane. Like,
well, it's okay because Joel taught her to swim. We don't really see that happening.
Your boat was still operational.
In a convergence of water.
And then let's not forget, she was about to get gutted, and she just so happens to be literally saved by the horn. Not Belle, but saved by the horn. And it's like, so not only do you get lucky by surviving your boat getting capsized, you wash up on shore, immediately get captured, almost get gutted, then they rush off, then you just run away and go back to doing what you're doing. And it's like, cool. Like, I don't need my main character to be John Wick, right? I don't need them to be a force of nature, but like, I just feel like it's kind of selling Ellie short. Because she does do a lot of cool shit. Like, she is not just like Leroy Jenkins in every interaction she has, where she just runs in. Like, she is kind of sneaky. Like, even in certain situations where you're fighting certain people, they really play up how sneaky Ellie is. Which is kind of the reason why the stalkers, like, threw her off so much. Because that's her thing. Like, she's like, hey, get your own thing. I'm the sneaky. They stole
my act.
Yeah, I'm the sneaky one. Like, so yeah, it just, I wish we could have got more. Like, if they were like, hey, if you could make this episode whatever you wanted, I would have been like, could we please just get like 2 more episodes and stretch this season out and just show us more Abby, please, and give us one cool scene with Ellie that actually shows that, like, yes, she kind of is hot shit in some situations. She's not just kind of stumbling through this. So when she's doing these things, it's deliberate. Like, you're like, oh, you made this decision. You didn't just accidentally trip and knock over a barrel and somebody blew up and died,
Yeah. Well, this is concerning now because the tone of this conversation where it's going is like, okay, so we talked about how Abby coming back in this episode may still feel like Abby got shortchanged this season overall. Ellie, now we're talking about Ellie. We feel that Ellie got shortchanged by not having a moment where she was just cool. So,
well, here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Ellie of the TV show is close to, but is not exactly Ellie of the video game. And we are not playing a video game, and so we don't need to show every single point A to point B to point C to point D. Like, in a video game, you can't have her walk in the outside hospital door and then show up in front of the main boss. But in some cases in a TV show, that makes more sense because we're telling a story rather than telling gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I understand the want for Ellie to be a little bit more badass in her representation on screen, but we do get those moments when she has the advantage in those, like, one-on-one kind of situations. We see that she wins those fights more often than not one-on-one. But we also see that TV version of Ellie is maybe not as great as strategic planning as Dina is, and that's why Dina being there with her is a strength. But that's my ultimate point. It's not a video game, and like, we have the different mediums for different things.
Yeah, I totally understand, but I mean, showing Joel eviscerate everyone in a hospital. He could have rolled up, shot Abby's dad, shot a few more people, then dipped. But they showed him kill everyone. And even then, I'm like, one person took out an entire hospital full of people, pretty much. And I'm like, just show me Ellie sneak up and shiv one person. One.
Fair.
That's all I need. That's all, just to show me that she's like, it kind of feels like she's just stumbling through these course of events. And to a degree she is, but I don't like that depiction of her just stumbling through, because I kind of want us to sit with the fact that she sat down and was like, I am going to kill these people. You know, like, I don't want it to just be like oh, would you look at that? What luck? Like, no, I want it to be like, you sat down and thought about, okay, how am I going to get into this hospital and kill all these random people if I need to get to Nora to kill her? You know, like, I want to see that, because to me, it gives it more weight, because it's not like you just being like, oh, I went in this door and thank goodness Nora's here. So she's the only person caught in this. I don't know, like, she's only collateral damage, if it were, you know, because the show would kind of have you think that it's like, oh, it's just Nora and all of Abby's like immediate friends that got caught in this. And it's like, you know how many people you put down in the game that are just doing their job? And I feel like that is part of the narrative. Like, that's what happens when you are so blinded with like, I'm going to kill them. Like, I am going to get my revenge. And I will, like, even Jesse being like, if I was in trouble, you'd burn the world down to save me. Like, that's cool, but you're burning the world down. Right?
Yeah,
like,
well, and I think they were trying to go for Mel and Owen really representing that shock factor of like, look at all the horrible things Ellie does as well, and really like drive a stake in when it was like, surprise, Mel was pregnant.
mm-hmm.
And, you know, next season, for people who stick around, they're presumably going to learn more about Mel and Owen's characters that is going to make that hit even harder
Mm-hmm.
when you realize what their story was before Ellie killed them, you know? So I understand where they were going. I think, though, some of this sentiment that I know I've definitely seen a lot of different perspectives online. But I think some of it does probably come down to the fact that they just didn't have as much airtime to cover a much larger story, to be honest with you. I mean, part
That's
two
the
is
biggest
just,
question for me.
It's a bigger story.
Yes.
Well, here's an interesting thing too, and I have generally shied away from too many direct video game to TV show comparisons because they are such different mediums and doing different things. But in our downtime between the end of the episode and recording tonight, I thought, I'm curious how this went in the game. And I looked up the cutscene, or the scene in the game of Ellie killing Owen and Mel. And it draws to a larger theme and difference between Ellie, the character in the show, versus the game, is in that in the game, it was a very intentional, like, she killed Owen and Mel maliciously.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of instigated by Owen. Owen rushed her, and then she shot him in the conflict, and then Mel takes her knife and tries to stab Ellie, and she turns around and shoves it in her neck. And so altogether, much more gruesome and much more intentional violence there, versus the Ellie that we're getting so far in the show does seem to try to be, at least in her own small way, reversing or mitigating the cycle of violence a little bit, in making her intention being killing Abby only, unless other people make them kill her or make her kill them. And so that's a really interesting change. And I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on what your opinions of Ellie, like, trying to avoid the violence rather than in the game it being very intentional throughout. And that even goes back to Mark's point about the stealth and like the many WLF and people that she ends up killing in the game versus what we don't get here.
Yeah, you know, I will say I don't take issue with characters not being the same version of a character we might know from the game. I mean, straight up this season, this isn't the Ellie from the game. It's not the Dina from the game. It's not the Abby from the game. Just
and there are plus sides.
And that's okay. That's totally fine because they have shown that they are able to enhance the story by making those changes. So I think it's great. And I love the idea of Ellie really trying to take the whole, I hope, when your time comes, you'll do better than me. Line that we hear from Joel's father and then from Joel himself. And I like the idea that they are trying to show us her character development through that lens, whereas, her character development looks a little bit different in the game. I don't take any issue with that. I still just don't know. I still just don't think we had enough time this season. I really think that's what it comes down to for me. Overall, I like the season. I am so invested in this franchise that I'm obviously going to be back for season 3. Like, twist my arm, like I will be back. But just, in general, I think that affected my overall enjoyment. But anyway, that was like a much longer answer to the question than I think Chelsea was looking for.
But I think there has to be certain elements of Ellie's character that's sympathetic to the viewer, whereas you don't necessarily need that in a video game.
Right.
You can't have a psychopathic killer who all she does is go on a rampage throughout the course of the show. I mean, I just don't know that would translate very well.
It would be too one note.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I will say overall, I do feel like this particular season leaves you with a lot of questions as a casual viewer. And I feel like there could have been more done throughout the course of this season. To your point, Laura, maybe it would have been better with a few more episodes for us to flesh out some storylines and some characters. But I'll just say kind of where we started, which is like the ending. It should have ended with Ellie being presumably shot by Abby. That's it.
Well,
what a good line. Yeah. We let you live and you wasted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great line.
Yep.
Great delivery. Gunshot goes off. Screen goes dark.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought that was where they were going to end it. I was like,
I kept looking at the clock to be like, is it going to be over? I don't know.
I feel like, for me, I trust them in terms of changing things because, like, the scene the whole story beat in the first season with like how they handled the brothers, right? And the whole story surrounding them with the I forgot what the group was called, but that whole kind of paramilitary group they had,
Kansas City group.
Yeah, it was
whole thing. That was great. I loved all of that. I loved what's that actress's name? The one from Yellow Jackets.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Amazing. She killed it. And she does not exist in the game. And I thought that was a perfect addition, right? And it like really enhanced the story. Like it really kind of gave stakes and gave a face to the threat they were trying to evade throughout that whole point. Because you're just kind of like, what was it? The Fedra? Oh, Fedra people. And that's it. It was just, you got to avoid the Fedra people. But we never really saw anyone. So there was like when you see her and you saw the dude who was the voice actor for
Perry.
Yes.
For Tommy.
You saw him and you were like, oh, those are the bad guys right now. That this is the face. It's not just a nameless acronym, I think that was great. But in this, I feel like the thing we have to accept is this is just going to be a different story because they are making very deliberate decisions with this story that it's going to be hard to tell the same story. And that's fine. Like, that's fine. Like with Last of Us season 1, like with like, you know, the whole Ellie thing, right? And seeing kind of Ellie doing her stuff beat for beat. The whole cannibal thing was pretty much beat for beat. That whole cannibal whatever where she burnt down that lodge, that was pretty much exactly, and like it doesn't need to be exactly. They could have changed some things, but it kind of cemented like this is the trauma that she is dealing with. This is where it came from. This is a little bit more of a piece of why she is the way she is, right? Like I love action as much as the next guy, but like the action needs to mean something, right? Like again, I don't want her to be John Wick. I don't want her to just run around and kill everybody, right? Like I would like to see her, because having her kind of be this like kind of this like I don't really want to hurt you, don't make me hurt you, oh I hurt you, sorry, like
oh.
I do like that it's more human, but in the original story it's kind of she's almost turning into what she thinks Abby is, you know what I mean, like having Abby show up and be like I'm going to kill the person you care most about and then just ice them, and then she just has to sit with that and she's just stewing with that. And then when she goes out, she's kind of emulating the things that she saw, you know? And like, I feel like that part of it is the part I want to see more of. Like, I want to see more of her going down that path of like you as a viewer being like, I don't really like you right now. Like, I'm not cool with what you're doing. Like, which kind of gives Abby some room to like if this is where you would originally see Ellie and then throughout the season you're like I don't know about that, ooh ouch, ooh and it's kind of going down here, and then throughout the season you're getting more Abby of being like, oh, okay, I kind of see why you're doing that. When the story kind of settles out, you have two characters that throughout their entire story have shown you that they are not good or evil, because people aren't just good or evil. There's a lot of gray area, and they really explore that gray area to be like, hey, viewer or player who initially hated this character, here's a lot more context, and now you're going to have to reevaluate what you originally thought. You know, like that for me was the biggest like plot motivation for the story when I originally consumed it, you know, like making me be like, oh shit, I have to reevaluate like what my initial thoughts on this character, you know?
Well, and I think they've been trying to get us there through, you know, of course we got the revelation pretty early on that Joel, you know, the man that Joel killed was Abby's father.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they kind of bookended that tonight with Ellie making that revelation to Dina, and Dina having the reaction she had, where you're seeing on the heels of Jesse being like, Ellie, you're fucking up and you are putting so many more people in danger. Nothing you do is going to bring Joel back. Please stop. And then you have Dina being like, yeah, it's time to go home. Now that I know the full story here, I want to get out. You know, I think Dina in that moment is really intended to be a proxy for the viewer. Like, as a viewer, I think you're supposed to identify with Dina in that moment. I think that's how they're trying to start shifting the perspective to get the audience to go, hey, wait a second, maybe Ellie isn't the shit. I think it's just a question of like, do you think this season ever had people in that position to begin with? And I get that that's the question that I kind of hear coming up in this discussion is like, did we get like the character development and like payoff that we need for Ellie for that moment of the shift to have an impact?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because every episode that's, you know, we followed Ellie, it's the creators always have something interesting to say about her and her journey in the after, you know, in the making of, and on the official podcast too. There's a lot of interesting stuff that they have to say about Ellie's journey on any particular episode. But, and again, going into like what it overall amounts to, did they put the right weight on the right levers in order for this to net out as its solo? Because they made the choice to go all in on Ellie's solo story first 3 days. You know, do we have the right view of her, and are we ready to, essentially spend some time with Abby?
And I don't think that spending this whole time with Ellie is necessarily a bad thing.
No.
I just feel like you said, there just wasn't enough time. Like, I feel like if we would have had like 2 more episodes, I feel like they could have, because a lot of these story beats felt kind of rushed, because it's like, we have 7 episodes, one of them's a flashback, so we're gonna need to just go.
Yeah. I think they probably had to be careful though too, because you're killing off Joel in episode 2, then to not spend time with Ellie. If you're a viewer, you're gonna tune out real fast.
You're like, whose show is this? Who's
right? And if all of a sudden in episode 3 you're spending a little too much time with Abby,
right,
and not enough time with Ellie, I would think maybe that wouldn't necessarily sit well with viewers.
Yeah.
So they probably had to juggle that.
I agree. And again, like 70-30. I'd be fine with that. 70 Ellie, sprinkle in some Abby, just so we don't forget about her,
Well, and that's the thing about this episode in particular that also is worth a call out. And I know, Chelsea, you shared one moment too, but there are these things that show us that the events that we know about from Abby's side of the story, and the events that we know about from what's been going on these 3 days that we didn't see this season, absolutely happened in this season, like during the time of this season, and will come up. Like certain shots, certain just things in the background, et cetera, like, oh, they're absolutely like, we are a go for this plot point. We are a go for this character's whole thing that happens to this character. We haven't even met yet. These are all like confirmable. But what does it really amount to? What level of, kind of suspension of, not even disbelief, like enjoyment? What's being put on an audience that hasn't played the game, which you say is much larger than the ones who have played the game, to just wait and trust that the show is going to be good? Next season, or tolerable without, Ellie, or tolerable without Joel and Ellie. So it's like potentially, what exactly is the audience that doesn't know what the story is being asked to kind of stomach and shoulder and look forward to moving ahead? And it's like, that just makes the way this episode ends feel gimmicky. It's like, oh wait, we're going back in time, but that's not new for the show either. So it's like,
I just have so many questions, going back to earlier.
It gave me the vibe of like Abby's about to shoot Ellie, and it's like, record scratch. I bet you're wondering how I got here. Let me tell you. It's like day 1 Seattle. Next season of Last of Us.
Or earlier. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I like that as a story, like a story mechanic. I like that. I like going back and like recontextualizing things. But having that be the season finale, like having that be the last thing you see, to be like, we're gonna do it again, guys, and I'm like, it should have been gunshot, cut to black, credits.
Yep.
That's it. That should have been it.
Period.
That's your complete circle. That's the kind of action and reaction, essentially, of the season.
The vicious cycle of vengeance and revenge that has been, as you're saying, Eric, sort of this major theme throughout the course of the season. And for me, I want to know, where are the infected? What's going on with this airborne version of the fungus? Who are the Seraphites? Why do they matter? What's Isaac up to? Like, who is this guy? I mean, we're introduced to him earlier on in the season. We don't get a whole lot of context to him, but clearly he wants Abby to be his successor of sorts.
That was interesting.
I got a lot. Are we still working towards getting a cure here? Like, what's the deal? I'm assuming Ellie somehow, some way is making her way into season 3.
Well, Micah, the answer to all of that is tune in next season. On
the answer to all of that, Micah, is for $59.99. You too can own The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I would say play the game unless you just want to avoid spoilers for 2 years.
Play the game; it's awesome.
Yeah, just
the game is fantastic.
Right. The only counterpoint,
and that's not a dog. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, the only counterpoint I want to give to the kind of backlash that we overall seem to have against the very end of this episode.
So sorry, Chelsea.
It's analysis.
No,
it's not backlash.
No, I'm not saying that I love it, but like from a marketing standpoint, wouldn't you want the audience to know 2 years ahead of time that what's coming next is going to be Abby rather than springing it on them when you've already got the season made?
Yeah,
yes,
probably.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure that's why.
Yeah.
No, I assume not.
They've been shooting some things because they shot some things simultaneously. So some things are kind of keeping in the pipe, and then, but honestly, at that point, just make it an after credit thing. Just make it a show some credits and then show
return.
Yeah, kinda.
That gives it a little bit of a because it's more of a Marvel movie thing, but also
also
but every movie's doing that now.
Yes,
so
Sinners did it, which you didn't see Sinners. Sinners is great.
Now I gotta see the after credits thing.
But it's just. It feels like marketing wise, I completely agree with you, Chelsea. It makes perfect sense. You don't want to just be like, surprise, Abby, because people be like, what the hell? But I feel like taking away from that beautiful, we let you live and you waste it, blam. Like that was
it's one of the best lines in the game.
Yeah, that was just peak. And I was like, this is Abby. Like this right here is what I've been waiting the whole season for. And then to be like, boom, cool. Yeah, all right. By the way, you see this football stadium? Pretty rad, huh? You want to see more? Well, tune in next time. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. Like and like she delivered that line perfectly. Like she, like her, did you see her face? Like she was
nailed
it. Yeah. Like it was, and like you can see, like she did so much acting just with her face. Like the different expressions she makes as she like get up and she sees Ellie and she's like, oh, like you can see her kind of like processing what's happening.
Who did she think it was?
Yeah, right. And then she's like,
there's all these cool questions you love to ask.
Right? It's like, we let you live and you waste it. And it's like, man, that was great. That was great.